Okay, great people. Let's continue with our work and let's see if there's something new that we can just come up with and enjoy, the both of us. Now, what I want us to do today is to look at the destructor. What is the concept behind a destructor? What is the function of a destructor, and when do we know that the destructor was invoked? So let's just go through all this and see exactly what is happening. So what I will do, I will go to Visual Studio. That is fine. And remember what we always do when we get inside Visual Studio, we will just create a class. But what is important first, it's for us to understand the theory behind everything that we do. So they say a destructor contains the actions you require when an instance of a class is destroyed. Okay, most often an instance of a class is destroyed when it goes out of a scope, the local scope where it was defined. As with the constructors, if you do not implicitly create a destructor for a class, C# will automatically provide one for you. Okay, this theory is worthy of noting. To explicitly declare a destructor, you use an identifier that consists of a tilde sign followed by the class name. Okay, that's fine. Let me just come here. So let me just name the project name as Destructor. Destructor demo. Alright, it will be saved on the desktop and the .NET 6.0 will be used. Alright. You can provide any parameters to a destructor. It must have an empty argument list, so it doesn't accept any parameters. As a consequence, the destructors cannot be overloaded. Very good, because they do not accept any argument, so you can never overload them. Because that is to say, remember, overloading, we can have the same name of the method using different arguments, so you can never overload a destructor because it doesn't accept any argument. All right, a class can have more than one destructor at most. Like a constructor, a destructor has no return type. Just as a constructor doesn't have a return type, the destructor also doesn't have a return type. So the theory behind everything that we do, it's very important. It helps us to understand the functionality of how object-oriented programming truly works, and it gives us the power through which it resembles. So we can just come here. This is Papa Fanzo. Welcome to the lectures of this great mathematician. So what we will do here, we will just have a namespace which we will always call the X. The class will always be called a P, and we will have a static. It will be void, and this will be the main, and it's a string of array arguments. Right, so what I want us to do, I want us to create a class, and this class that we have created, which we will call the employee. So we will have a class. The class will be called the employee class, and we want to investigate how the destructor work. Okay, that is fine. So the first thing that I need to do inside of this class, I will have some properties, and these properties will be auto implemented properties. Now first of all, I know that a property has to be public. It will be of type int, and this will just be called the ID number. It's a property. It will have a get, and set auto implemented properties. Very good. And then I will immediately have a constructor. It will be public. It has the same name as the name of a class, but this constructor accepts one parameter or one argument, and this is the employee ID. Right, that is fine. We understand how the constructor works. We have been dealing with this for quite some time. And I will just say the ID number is equals to the employee ID. So what am I doing? I'm taking the argument that will be assigned in the main when we created the object of this class, and I'm taking that employee ID and I'm assigning that to the property name ID number. We understand also that there's no problem with that, right? And then once that has been done, I just want to have a right line. Let me just have using static system dot console. Right, so I just want to have a right line, and in this right line the only thing that I want to do or say is just that the employee object, the employee object, use some placeholders, is created. Okay, and then at position 0 I just want to have the ID number. So I'm saying employee object maybe 1 or 2, or employee object 444 is created. That's fine, that's okay, nothing wrong with that. And then I am done inside of this constructor, so I can just end the constructor. Fine. So this is just a constructor that I have. Now when I go out of the constructor, I want to create a destructor now remember it has a tilde sign, so I'm just going to show you. There it is. This is a symbol that you are creating a destructor of that class, and remember it will accept no arguments and it will have no return type and it is always void. Right, so what I want to do, I just want to have a right line inside of this destructor and just say the employee object number has been destroyed. This is just what I want to say, and I will take the ID number. This is just what I want to do. Now let's go and create a demo inside of the program. Now the namespaces are very important. I will just have to import this one, so I'll just copy this, and on top of your namespace we will just say using, and I will just paste it. So the very first thing that I will do when I am inside there, I am now inside of the main, I will just create an employee object, and this employee I will say it's a worker equals new employee. That's fine. But remember, the employee, when I immediately do this, it accepts one argument which is of type int. So what is the ID number of the employee? Let's make it 444. That's fine. So this is the constructor that I have. Where is the constructor? There it is. It has the same name as the name of the class, and it has to be public. All right, there it is. Now everything is fine, nothing is wrong. Now I want to create another employee. Employee, and let me just say this is another work, and this is equals to new employee, and the ID number of the employee is 202, and this 202 that we have now, we want to do what now? We just want to run this, because when we go inside of the employee class, we have some statements that have to compile. The first statement that we have, when we call this constructor, it will do that, and then it will call the destructor once it is destroyed from that scope. So let us just try to run the code and see exactly what will happen here. So now remember what we have. It will go and say, according to what we have here, employee object, this has been created, and the number is 444. So it will go and say employee object 444 is created, and then come again, you have another object, and it will say employee object number 202, if that is the number, has been created. And then once it has run those two lines, because you have two objects, it will do that for those two objects. If you had 4, it will say that for 4 of them. And then once that has been done, now it will destroy those 4 objects. So let's just run this and check exactly what will transpire. Right, employee object 202 is created. Now, why did it not call the destructor? The destructor was not invoked. Why? Because when we look here, we know that the destructor has to be public. This is one thing that we have read. Very, very important. Now, we need to make this destructor public. But there's a problem immediately when we do. The modifier public is not valid for this item. So how will I ensure that when this destructor is called, it will be able to run that? So let me just come here and just make this public and see if there will be any changes. And the destructor is still not called. So how can we ensure that the destructor is invoked and it truly runs when the program runs? Now let's go back and check something. Right, the very first thing that we need to be aware of is that to explicitly declare a destructor, we use the tilde sign. That's what we did. You cannot provide any parameters to the destructor. That is correct. It must have an empty argument list. That's exactly what we have. As a consequence, destructors cannot be overloaded. A class can have more than one destructor. That is fine. Like constructors, a destructor has no return type. That's fine. Okay. Now we have this destructor and we have this class, but when we are running this code, the destructor, this statement, it's not invoked. So why is it so that I cannot have that statement there? If I go here and I type in the name of the class, which is employee, and I press the dot, there's nothing happening. Even if I can just go to a worker a worker and I press the dot, nothing is happening here. Just nothing is happening here. And remember, a destructor is like a constructor, but here this is how we call a destructor. That's fine. So how do I ensure, this is the question, how do I ensure that in this scope, when I call this class, why is it not running the destructor here? Why is it not doing that? So this is the question that we need to ask ourselves. How do we make it possible that we can be able to call the destructor? Why is it possible? Now, one possibility that I want to show you is to take this class, this one. Let me take this class. Let me just copy this class. Go to the program. This is the main. Underneath the main, I have a class. So let me just paste this in here, the employee class. And let me just take the import, which I have in this one. Let me just copy this line and paste that line in here. All right, and then the error is gone. Now let's run the code and see what really happens here. Control F5. Now employee object is created, 202 is created, right? Irrespective of the efforts that I make, nothing is happening. Just about nothing. Just about nothing. Nothing is happening. So right, remember I had a constructor, there it is, and this is end your constructor, and just underneath I have a destructor that accepts no arguments, and it prints out that which needs to be printed out, but the destructor is not running. It is not running. And let's check whether there is a problem. Right, I have created two objects, and these two objects are an employee, a worker, and another worker, and I have used whatever that needs to be used in order for that to run. Right, and only this constructor is running and the destructor is not running. The destructor is not running. And can we account for the reason why this is happening? Can we account? Okay, let's just run this once again and check where the problem might be. The same thing is still happening. I'm still having the same problem. I am in this main, it's public static void. Even if you can have that public keyword there, it will still do the same thing that it has done. So now the question is, why is it not running? Right, one thing that is worthy of noting in this program that we have, we should never explicitly call the employee class destructor. Yet, we can see from the output that the destructor is not executed. Right, destructors are invoked automatically. You cannot explicitly call one. We can't. So there's no way of us calling that destructor. Interestingly, the last object that we created is the first object that is destroyed. That should be destroyed. The same relationship would hold true to no matter how many objects the program instantiates. Right. For now, we have little reason to create a destructor except to demonstrate how it is called automatically. This is exactly what we are doing, or we are trying to do. Right, that is fine. So understanding the destructors, to explicitly declare a destructor, we use an identifier which consists of a tilde followed by the class name. That's exactly what we did. So we have a tilde followed by the class name. You cannot provide any parameters to the destructor. It must have an empty argument list. The return type for a destructor is always void. Okay, it is always and always void. So I cannot come here and just say, for example, public void and do this. I can't do that. When you hover over here, it says in class record it is struct or interface member declaration. So even if I can come just here and get rid of this, I will still have a problem. You do not have to assign this reserved keyword void. Automatically it will return void. It has no return type. Alright, that's fine. But irrespective of that, when we try to run our code, the destructor, it's not called. So what could be the problem? What could be the cause of this? What could be the cause?